Okay. So, Trudy, how long have you been, like, when did you find out you were highly sensitive?
I think I've really always known, but I didn't know what it was. I always known I was, I sensed more than other people. But I know when I discovered the word, uh, I I just knew that applied to me. And I'm not a typical HSP. I'm extrovert and sensation seeker. So so I didn't really recognize all the traits of the HSP, although I did because I knew loads of HSPs because I've always worked with people.
Oh, yeah. You're a high sensation seeker. So am I. But I'm an introvert.
Yeah, most HSPs are really.
Yeah. But
Not very often I find that combination HSP and extrovert and sensation seeker. But
yeah, because, high sensation seeker, I couldn't figure out why. How did you find that out about yourself? Like,
because I'm not very sort of physical. I mean, I didn't used to jump about when I was a kid, but I always get into conflicts. I mean, solving conflicts. I always get into the really hard, you know, solving difficult people situations. And I always sort of, I don't know, I always end up doing that. And the funny thing was, I've never liked it, but it's like when I sort of like leave that situation, I always feel sort of elated. I feel, that's something really interesting happened. It made me feel happy in a way, which
were you able
was
to
really
solve their
good.
problem?
Yes, because I was able to work, to function. Yeah.
Ah, so you're what a problem solver there.
I'm a pretty good problem solver. I don't do it very often, but I just noticed that really when I get into those really awkward, horrid situations, I thrive, which is a bit silly.
You see, and for myself, as a high sensation, I always like new challenges.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I can do like you, get into these conflicting situations and can come up with a solution. And people look at you and say, how did you do that? And I think it's because of our listening skills, eh?
Absolutely, yes, and reading the room and knowing, what's going on. It's like I tend to get really diplomatic. I see all sides of things, and so I sort of work around the issue, and then and I'm really direct.
Are you?
Yeah, but in a kind way. I think people know that I want their best.
Wow. So when you were a kid, you didn't know you were HSP, did you?
No, but I had a really. My grandmother was definitely HSP, and I visited her a lot. So we were
Mm.
like, um, I think we shared a sort of like common understanding of love,
Ah,
and so
nice.
yeah, and so I
Yeah.
really loved her. And then I had an aunt who was really, well, great aunt who was a real altruist. I mean, my mum loved her. So
Yeah.
we used to look up to those gentle, wonderful, nice people. So I never really thought there was anything wrong with it.
Ah, you grew
And that,
up, then you weren't traumatized as a highly sensitive person then. Like it
not
was
really.
very much a part of an accepting trait in your family.
It was very much accepted, yes. But I mean, I don't think my parents understood it much. So I'm realizing now that what, because, I did miss that proper unconditional love, that because I understand that. And
Yeah.
I don't think they did or do. And
Yeah.
so, and so when, so I think I made it my life's purpose to do better. But I never sort of like thought there was much wrong. I mean, there was definitely something wrong with it. I mean, it wasn't good enough. But I've never held it against them. I just used it.
But they didn't put you down for it, though.
No, but I mean, they wanted. I don't know. It was like there was a certain. I mean, this is typical of that generation. You know, they were used to doing stuff. Yeah, and they were used to. I mean, my dad was brilliant. I mean, he was really, really intelligent, and so that was valued. So good grades was valued. Being sort of able to know what to do around the house was valued, and I was useless at that. And they didn't get, you know, my spiritual understanding, so I never really understood it myself.
So did you find it affected your learning? Did you have a different curve of learning? Did you find that your learning process was a lot different?
I mean, totally, but for many reasons, because I'm Norwegian, right? And when I was 5, we moved to England.
Okay.
And so I went to school in England before I started school in Norway.
Okay.
And as a foreign student pupil, I was really well looked after in school in England. And I really learned to read and write English and Norwegian. So when I went to school, got to school in Norway, I already knew how to read and write. And I was told not to say much because the other kids needed to learn. So I was sort of like really, really understimulated.
Wow, but that must have been frustrating. That had to be frustrating for someone who is, creative like yourself, like really, and learning like that, like, because our learning curve is so different, eh? It is so different. We process things and process them and process them, and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So that had to really hold you back.
Yeah, I think I hated school. I really, because I'm a really brilliant teacher.
Are you a teacher?
No, I am. I teach, but I'm not at school, so I didn't qualify as a proper teacher.
Yeah.
I studied English and French and media studies, and so I do teach sometimes.
Okay.
I have taught a lot, but I've made it difficult for myself to get teaching positions in ordinary schools because I didn't want to. So I've sort of like ruined my own, you know, I would have got stuck in the teaching profession if I was able to do that.
Yeah.
But I think I knew really early that I can't do that. So I just...
Oh, well, because it would be you wouldn't be allowed to use your creativity.
No.
You would be too boxed in.
Sorry. Yeah.
You would be far too boxed in. And that's what holds me, like that's what frustrates me, is I don't like being boxed in. Allow me to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's like being a bird in a cage, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like being a bird in a gilded cage, and you can't get out. And I found that a lot until I found out I was HSP. Like, you know, like I felt like I was gilded. I was caged.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, did you find it affect your relationships?
I mean, absolutely. Because I'm a massive diplomat. So, but I mean, I'm once divorced and actually I'm married last year, but my new husband, we've been together for like 15 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But this, you know, the first round, he was the father of my 2 boys.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's when I really understood that for a start, when I get into difficult positions, like I had two jobs that were really terrible.
Oh, wow.
Because that was, you know, I'd lived a lovely life, I think, until then. And then all of a sudden I got these horrid jobs, which was really like, bullying, and I was not the first one to burn out. Certainly not. So I really knew it had nothing to do with me. It was, people around me, leaders. And so I realized that my husband then didn't understand why I was ruminating so much. And he couldn't understand what was, and his response was so
cruel almost.
Well, not sensitive enough for me. So I got really just drained. I just felt really lonely.
Yes.
But it was nice enough, but I mean, really, really not enough for me. I got really understimulated. I had 2 little kids, and felt so alone and stuck.
But did you know you were HSP at that point in time?
I realized just after. I mean, I knew there was something about me that was different, and I really, in these working positions, I was the one that people came to talk to. So
Yes.
Of course I knew everything that went on in people's feelings and minds, and so even actually on both sides and all sides.
Did you hold those emotions in? Like, did you take it on as an extra burden for yourself when you knew what was going on all around you?
Well, I think this, is the sensation seeking.
Yes.
It's like I take it in, but I accept it.
Okay.
And I try to do something about it. Yeah, it is actually quite cool, but it was really exhausting. So when I burnt out, I really burnt out,
I guess you did.
Yeah. So I got so frustrated in the end that sent me, sick leave. I couldn't work, so I had to go home to my broken home.
Wow.
It was awful. And as I say, I'm stimulated easily. So I think I was home for 1 day before I started walking.
Wow.
And I walked and walked and walked and wondered what on earth to do now, because what I need is to feel like I normally do when I'm great at work, I need to feel I need to feel outgoing. I need to feel at the top of my game. I need to feel that I'm brilliant and that people like me and that I like people, and I need to be in that my pink cloud. That's where I belong.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is my my gift, I think, because I belong on a pink cloud, and sometimes I fall down. Sometimes I just visit,
Well, how did you find out you were HSP? What brought you to that conclusion?
Well, several things. For a start, when I moved in with my new boyfriend, the first thing that happened, we moved into this flat where I'm now, and a couple of days, I mean, my new boyfriend, his 2 sons and my 2 sons, there were 6 of us getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And a week in, my cousin rang the doorbell and was on her way into psychosis.
Oh.
And so I couldn't not let her in, so I let her live in my living room.
Okay.
Which I understood fairly quickly that is not something everybody
would do.
No.
Would do. But your empathy came through.
Yes, I mean, there was no way I couldn't let her leave. I mean, she just had to stay here. I asked my boyfriend, and he agreed.
Oh wow!
And so we just had to let these young boys understand that some people are not well.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
That must have been stressful.
It was well, yes, it was really interesting. The thing is that she said that she was highly sensitive and that was her problem. And I heard the words and I thought, well, so am I, because otherwise you wouldn't be here.
Well, it runs in families, eh?
Yeah. I mean, my grandmother, it was also.
It's in the DNA.
Yeah. But I think, I mean, whereas most people would say that, no, you're not well, you need to go to hospital, we can't have you here.
Okay.
I just had to.
But you felt the need to
I
comfort her.
really felt I can't leave her with anybody else. She needs me.
So she was the one who helped you discover your HSP then?
Well, the first time around. So that's the first time I heard the word.
So how many years ago was that?
That's 2007.
Just about the time I found out about myself. It was in 2007.
Yeah. And, I had just started my own new company.
Oh,
then.
what did you do?
It was, it was a space for unemployed people to come and somehow it was a creative space.
It have to be. Let people let their feelings out.
It was a thing that I needed when I was, I just understood that creativity is what makes me feel
very powerful.
Well, powerful, yeah.
Yes.
Autonomous.
Wow. Like myself, I found out, my husband said to me, he said, you see and notice everything. There's nothing you don't miss. You should be on the police force with me.
Wow.
I said, are you kidding? I can't stand violence. I can't stand this. I can't stand that. I would be the last person for that. But he said, you miss nothing. And then I found the book by Elaine Aron, right? And I have all 27 characteristics. How many do you have? Did you do the quiz from her?
I did. But I don't have. I've had to learn a lot since then, because there was a lot of things I didn't really notice. It's like, I don't know pain. I don't understand pain.
Really?
When I broke my knee, it took a week before I accepted that it was painful enough to go to the doctors.
You didn't feel it?
I did. I just didn't understand it, because at some point in my childhood, my mum told me not to be a hypochondriac.
Okay. And yet, it's funny, eh? Okay, you see how that affects you? And yet the least little pain I feel, I know there's something wrong. And it's all a mindset.
Yes.
You turned your mind off of pain, it would appear.
Yeah. So
wow. How did you do that?
I think she only said it once.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So, oh my Lord. That's interesting, because my sensitivity to pain is so low. It's lower than the grass tops.
Yeah.
I feel every little thing.
Yeah, I can if I want to, but and I've been practicing actually since I understood that, because my dad had a heart attack, and I thought, what if women who get heart attacks don't feel it in the same way, right?
Oh, they don't?
What if I don't notice? What if I do? What if I don't listen? So I have to listen. Yeah,
okay.
So I've started listening to my body now.
Wow. Yeah, like yesterday, for example, I had worked really, really hard on Saturday and Friday, and I was just going. And yesterday, my body couldn't do a thing. I couldn't. I just had to sit and just relax. Interesting, eh? And I had to listen to the body. I couldn't even work out. I couldn't even go down and do my regular workout.
Yeah.
And so you see how it affects everything. It's really fascinating how some people are so affected by some things. So what affects you the most as a highly sensitive? What really,
The thing is, I'm a really good listener. I'm a really good talker too, but I do one or the other.
That's cool.
Yeah. And you know what? I make people cry.
Do you really?
I love tears. Tears to me are the symbols of what's important, the signs of something really interesting coming up. So I am an HSP coach.
Are you really?
Yeah, I've done that for ages. I didn't know what to call it. I just did it. People found my notes, my articles and so on, and they just got in contact with me and didn't know what to expect, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I just felt I've used my intuition, and it's always worked.
That's the same with me. And
Yeah.
I've been working with a girl right now who's going through a hard time with a situation, and I've used my intuition and was able to help her figure the things out. It just comes naturally, don't you find?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I've never been able to say what I'm doing because I'm just being me, and I don't know how to take money because when am I working and when am I not working?
Well, that's it. And that's it. And that's typical of HSP, not being able to ask for money. That was one of the hardest things I found in setting prices for our bed and breakfast. Because I loved running the B&B. I loved it. But the thing was, how much do you charge? And I don't believe in overcharging. I don't believe in overcharging. So it was really, really difficult setting the pricing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I've just put my prices on online, and when people come, I just ask if they've read it because I can't remember what.
This is so interesting. I just finished writing a book on the sensitive intelligence method, and it's to do with HSP.
I'm also writing a book, but I'm not telling yet because it's not finished.
What's it on?
What is on at HSP and what makes you happy?
What makes a person happy? HSP happy.
Yeah, so I think it applies to lots of people, but HSPs especially because.
What makes you happy as a HSP?
I mean, since I take people in, making people happy makes me really happy.
Yes, that's what makes me happy. Is making others happy.
Yeah, and you know, this is what when I coach, if I can call it that. I mean, I have to. When I talk about the things that make people feel alive, right? And I talk about creativity, and I talk about what I do because I don't know what they do, and then when I talk about how people function and what we need to survive, and that a human need is actually creativity and purpose and love and so on. Then they start crying.
Wow, but we do need to create.
Oh yeah,
part of life.
Yes, yeah,
but not everybody is creative.
All HSPs are.
Yes, HSPs are, but not other people.
Well, I've just drawn. Well, can you see that?
Yeah, I can. It's how nice! Isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
That's neat.
Not because it's pretty, but it says something about creativity. It's a NASA study of creative potential, divergent thinking, and they discovered that 90% of 4 to 5-year-olds were geniuses, and only 30% when they reached 10 years old. When they reached 15, only 12% were still geniuses. It's the same people. And when they grew up to be adults, only 2% remained, which is absolutely horrible, but you can revitalize it. It's easy to find it. It's not easy, but you can.
Well, I think like in the first 10 minutes of being born, that's when we are our most intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
And then it starts to decrease. So you see, over time, the creativity decreased. Now, that would be an interesting subject. Why? Why, as we get older, in that case, would the creativity decrease? What is the environment?
Yeah, people tell us what to do.
Is that what it is?
Of course. And then you start school and they tell you not to be creative.
But school is the worst place to be.
Yeah.
School
that's probably why I kept my creativity though, because I was so bored that my mind was probably wandering all the time.
You see, with me, it was the spirituality I had to accentuate.
Yeah, I've only just realized that.
Because I grew up in an environment where I was traumatized as a highly sensitive person.
Yeah.
Really traumatized. And I had nowhere else to go but only back to my spirituality.
Yeah, right. So you hung on to that?
I had to. Because I had nobody else. It was all by myself. I was all alone by myself. And nobody understood. Nobody understood.
No, people don't know.
They don't understand HSP. That's why I'm on a mission to bring people and make awareness.
Yeah.
And so many people don't even know they're highly sensitive. They don't even know.
No. People keep coming to me saying, I've only just realized that there was such a thing.
Well, that's what they're realizing now. That's because of Elaine Aaron, Dr. Aaron.
Yeah. But I mean, I was actually interviewed quite a bit, like 10 years ago or so. Around that time, I started writing, and then the newspapers and magazines got in touch and interviewed me. So I'm sometimes interviewed as an expert, but in those days there were lots of articles about HSP, and then they just stopped because it wasn't interesting anymore.
But it's coming back.
Really, not here, not much anyway. But I mean, there's been a lot of new research so they know more about sensation seekers and extroverts. Which I've been waiting for all these years.
Well, because I'm a sensation seeker. I always want to try something new, and I get bored very quickly. I get bored very, very quickly. Yeah. And I thought that had to do with depression.
Oh, did you?
Well, yes, because people who get depressed get very bored very quickly. And I thought it was always to do with depression, because a lot of HSPs do have depression.
Of course.
It goes hand in hand. But it was more the high sensation seeking in me that I would get bored. I'd go off to something else. I'd go on to something else. I'd do something else.
Yeah, I mean, as a teacher, I've also helped people, taught people how to write CVs and applications and so on.
So you're very intelligent. You're smart.
Very adaptive. I take things, because that was one thing, because they said that we are slow learners.
We are.
I mean, I disagreed totally until I realized what it was.
But because it's the over-processing.
I'm really, really quick at learning lots of things. But I realized, since I knew this, that if something is completely new and I don't know anything about it, then I take a step back, and I need, the overview before I can get into any details. So it takes time before I actually get there. But once I've got, the whole picture, I pick up things really easily. And so, that's why I sometimes come across as intelligent. I don't think of myself as intelligent. I think of myself as empathetic, and socially intelligent, and actually spiritually intelligent. And I've never known that before. So that's a recent thing I've realized, that I understand love.
Yes. True love.
I know what it is.
Love is really interesting concept.
Yeah.
It's really, really an interesting.
Yeah, because that's what my husband, then boyfriend, told me when I started my centre. I wondered why people really liked it there, because they were forced to go there. But there was a
radiance coming out of you, and a light
Feel
of
loved.
some sort.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely loved them.
Well, yeah, because they felt accepted. They felt, see, I love psychology and anything to do with the mind, the brain.
Yeah,
I like
me
the brain. So
Yeah.
when it comes to stuff like this, I'm like you, I can pick it up real fast. I can pick it up. I can pick up a HSP right off the bat. I can pick them out right out. But when it comes to learning math or that kind of thing, that's another kettle of fish.
I think it's just so boring.
It is. It is very boring. But you know, I have a question for you. You know, the Irish, I'm Irish. I'm as Irish as Patty's pig. I'm as Irish as Patty's pig. And a lot of Irish are writers, poets, musicians, dancers. I wonder, I want to do research on this to find out if there are more HSPs in the Irish than there is anything else. Because both my parents were Irish. I'm sixth generation Canadian. I'm 98% Irish and 2% Scottish. And both my parents were HSP.
Yeah. You know,
and they were both Irish.
Yeah. I've coached internationally a little bit. And most of the clients were Irish.
Really? And I'm beginning to wonder if they have a monopoly, as it were, on this trait.
Well, it's interesting though, because it has an interesting history, right?
Yes, very.
Half the population just disappeared out of Ireland, and who were the ones to leave, and who were the ones to stay?
It was after the famine that was imposed on them.
Yeah, you know,
my family came over. That's right. But my family came over from Ireland in 1826. As a matter of fact, where I live, the area I live, is mostly my family out here, and a lot of it is family that came over from Ireland, and we still have the same church.
Right.
3 churches in the area, and all of them were built by my family.
Wow. Yeah.
It's really interesting. So I'm just trying to figure out, because I've interviewed a lot of my cousins, and a lot of them are HSP.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. Because I think. So you're saying that in Ireland people sort of stuck together.
Well, they did. If they didn't or weren't in, it was the Protestant and the Irish. It was the Irish and the Protestants, and it was, you know, the British tried to destroy the culture completely through the famine. It was very sad. It was very sad.
Horrible.
Oh, it was terrible. It was horrific. But the Irish, I just trying to figure out, like a lot of singers. My father was a tenor. My father was a tenor singer.
I sing too.
I do too. I sing as well. And I write. I can draw. I do needlework, and I cook. It's all arty. Yeah. Isn't that interesting, though?
It is. You know, because what I was into when I started my company, which is now a voluntary organization, by the way, but when I started it, it was because I was really into creativity as a thing, you know.
Yeah.
And so I read anything I could find of research around creativity, and just around the time when I'd read Elaine Aron's book, I found this research on creativity, which showed that creative people had brains that didn't have these. Hang on, I think I've been explaining this in Norwegian lately, so I can't think of the word. The keepers who say this is not important and that's not important, they sort of sort things out, you know. But creative brains just let everything seep in.
Yes.
So you dig it out. And what's that? That's highly sensitive, isn't it? Exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I actually got in touch with one of the researchers and asked if she knew whether HSP and creativity were linked in any way.
I think they
And
are.
well, yes, definitely. I mean, no one says so now, but this researcher was also she thought so. They hadn't gotten that far in their research, but now I'm hearing it all over the place.
Now, I've only got 3 more minutes, but I will tell you about my podcast. I love doing it, and it's very much me because I used to be in public speaking and I used to be in radio. So I really like doing the podcast, and I'm doing it on educating people about HSP. But and then we'll get some more things and see if we can get this podcast going.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay. Thank you. Have a grand day.
You too. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.